So I said this is my earliest beer of the year. Is it your earliest beer of the year?
Oh, yeah, well, pretty up well, yeah, it says.
Cheers, mate. Thanks for meeting with us.
Yeah.
All right.
Been always called Tiger since I was 5 years of age.
All right. Suits me.
My old man had a grocery shop in Torbanlea,
Yep.
and I used to like packing the shelves. He used to go to town, get the gear, and I'd pack on the shelf.
Yep.
And his dad had a fellow called Harold Mattis, Sam Mattis, working for him. And I used to do all this sort of stuff, and he said to Dad, Frank, he said, that son of yours is a tiger for work. And I got tiger from that day on.
How old were you?
I was 5 and a half, hadn't gone to school.
All right. So has Tiger stayed with you through your mining years?
Yeah.
All right.
When I worked at the mines, there was always Mr. Tiger Pollard or up in Emerald. So I said to the man, like, come out the pit. I said, I'll take you down the line. Of course, he goes out the pit and he says, I'm looking for Mr. Elvis Pollard. And the mine manager said, mate, we've got no Elvis Pollards working here, but we've got a Tiger Pollard.
Your name
I said, well, what? Yeah.
Your name had changed permanently.
Yeah.
All right. We'll start at the beginning, Tiger. What years did you work at the Bagawan coal mines?
Well, I went to school in 51,
Yep.
52, so I would have started there in 53.
Yep, rightio.
At number 7, Bagawan.
Rightio. And what year did you pack it in?
Well, that's another question. I'm not real sure on the year, but around the 70,
Yep.
74 or something like that, I think the mine closed, number 7 closed.
Yep.
And I was pineapple farming, but I was sort of pineapple farming before I finished at the mines. And then I did a few months at the power station in the boilers when the station was ready to close down.
Yep.
And then I got a job up in Emerald in the mines in 97.
Oh, rightio.
So I went from Torbanlea to Emerald in 97 and worked at a mine called Gordonstone. Worked there till I went up there in 91.
Yeah.
That's right. And then the mine shut down in 97. That was the end, so back home to Toowoomba again.
And what were you mining in Emerald, Tiger?
Coal.
Coal again? Yeah.
All coal. Of course, the Emerald seam was 4 metres, where our depth of seams at Bagawan number 7 was around about 4 or 5, not very much over 5 feet, a lot of 3 feet stuff.
Yeah.
And when we went to Emerald, I couldn't touch the roof because of 4 metres of coal.
Yeah.
And where they tell me that Bagawan Coal mine number 7.
Yeah.
Produced 1 million tonne of coal. Well, it was over 1 million tonne, but it was produced by number 7 shovels.
All
All by number 7 shovels. No mechanical business at number 7. It was all with pick and shovel.
So number 7, from the date that it opened to the date they closed the operation, there was never diesel power.
No, they had horses.
Yeah.
Horses in the mine underground, but towards the latter part of the mine, they did have one diesel locomotive that hauled out the wagons of coal from inside. But that was only one diesel, all the rest was horse-drawn people.
So how are they pulling those skips, those ore carts must be really heavy loaded with coals. How do they pull them out from the seam underground?
Well, they pull them out what they call the levels.
Yep.
And then the horse will pull 6 out one time, the next load he'll bring 7 out, and they lay underground in what they call the levels.
Yep.
And then the rake or the wagons.
Yep.
From the in the engine room, they'd drop down the empty ones and pick up the full ones and bring them up to the surface. And then, of course, they go onto the pit end where the men tip them into wagons and into coal wagons, and then they go to various parts of the district mostly for locomotive coal sort of thing.
Right.
And all underground stuff was all, there was no, you couldn't, no flame, no lighted flame sort of thing underground, so you couldn't smoke underground.
Yeah.
And there's a horse, you might think, oh, bloody old horse, yeah, but they used to go down the mine of a Monday morning, walk down the mines about 1,200 metres, to walk down a grade of 1 and 4, and they go to their stables underground. Yep. And then after they finished their shift, we worked all day shift. The horses would go back to the stables where they had their feed. And every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, the horses would go from their level back to the stables, but no one takes them back. They go back themselves, and they go in and get their feed. Now, come Friday, the horses go, they leave them go at their level, but they don't go back to their stables. They know it's Friday, so they go straight up the mine.
Fresh air.
They go straight up the dip. And the fella up the service, he gets the horses and takes them over to the paddock, and they stay there for Saturday and Sunday, and Monday morning back down the pit again for another shift.
We're horse powering coal from underground workings. At number 7. That's awesome, Ty.
They drag the coal out from the inside. They might have to, the horses might travel half a kilometre sort of in, and that's where the horseman follower would take them to that area. The miners would fill the skips up, and then the horse would drag them back out again. Yeah. And then I used to work on what they call the rake, and I see a photo there on the wall. Where the engine driver would let you down the mine, and you put the empty wagons in one level, and then change unhook the rope and put it on the full ones, the next level. And then he'd ring the bell, and he'd start the engine and start gradually pull up the ropes out, and you'd sit on the front of the skip. And you wouldn't be allowed to do that nowadays. Sit on the front of the skip, and he'd pull you right up the tunnel.
Get a lift back up.
and you'd unhook the wagons when they get on the top, hook onto another leather wagon, empty ones, and away you go again.
Awesome.
Down the line.
Now, do you know there's some stories that get around, especially at Western Queensland, of some interesting stories. Some of them are probably myths about how they first found gold, coal. There's some funny stories about travellers seeing some coal as doorstops. Do you know any stories of the origins of how they found coal here? Yeah, well, my grandfather, he and there was 13 of them in the syndicate, and they sort of found coal in the area, and they got a bit of money from overseas to open up and start what they called Burgowan Coal Company. They used to drill or bore for coal to see what depth it's in. And in the early days, they had a horse. The drill was going round, it was on bloody arms, and the horse used to drag it round and round. My God.
And that's to drill the hole to test how much coal's underground. Wow. So it was a pretty extra hard job sort of thing. But then again, they used to have small shafts, 4 feet by 2 feet, and they'd stick them down to get on to see what depth of coal there was, fair dinkum. And I purchased a block of dirt down here, and there was quite a few little holes covered over. It was 4 feet by 2 feet, and that's it. One was up the top, one dug and then pulled it up, then let the bucket down again, filled it up, pulled it up, put the timber in, and that's how they tested how much coal was underground.
Speaking of the coal, you mentioned the 2 seams. You said that the seam at Emerald was quite high. What, that's not the depth, that's the size of the seam, is it?
Yeah, see our seam was about 200 metres underground sort
Wow.
of thing. And it was only a seam of 3 feet up to 6 feet.
Yep.
We're up the north there, 100 metres underground, and their seam's around about 4 metres, 5 metres.
All right.
So it's, up the north it's all done by mechanical.
Yeah.
You don't use a shovel up there. You don't use a shovel up there.
Now, Tiger, Mr. Tiger,
Yeah.
starting at the beginning with you does actually mean possibly going back to your family. So back a few generations. Now, you got some ancestors linked to early coal mining, don't you?
Yeah. Well, my grandfather, he was the manager of the coal mine, and of course I know that the company received money from overseas,
Mm-hmm.
and then see the Torbanlea miners, they got jobs like for Brandon County. There was a Kerr Proctor, Arthur Proctor and David Kerr, and there was a few others.
Yep.
Were the owners, you might say, and they loaned the miners of Torbanlea money to build their bowling green.
Yep.
And hence they called it the Bagawan Bowls Club, not the Torbanlea Bowls.
Rightio.
And that's how the Bagawan Bowls Club got founded.
Yep.
With money from the Burgowan Coal Company.
Right.
And of course a lot of people say, well, why, how did you call it Bagawan Bowls Club when it's really at Torbanlea? There is a town called Bagawan down the road down there with a couple of horse owners have got them. But no, they said because the Bagawan Coal Company loaned them the money to build the bowl tree, they called it the Bagawan Bowls Club.
All right, so the research we've done looks like Queensland was quite a few years behind the global evolution in mining. You talked a little bit before about up in Emerald, a lot of it was automatic and machinery. So when I drive around to these sites, I'm on a mountain bike, and in the middle of summer it is really hard work. I can't imagine what it was like underground working on a coal mine in the middle of summer in Queensland. I mean, how did you guys cope?
Yeah, well, I know the olden days when we were all picking shovel, it was pretty warm. Pretty warm, but nowadays it's cold out. With all the air that's going through. Like I know when I first started working at Gordonstone, coming up the drift, it was that bloody cold that you bloody nearly freeze by the time you get to the surface.
Did you have any of that back in your era of mining?
No.
Nothing.
I don't know about any of that, no. Because that's nowadays the fans, like they're bloody. The fans that we used in Bagawan in the early days were driven by steam.
Yeah.
And even the winding engine was by steam, and all the timber cutting, like on the sawmill, was all done driven by steam.
Yeah.
And a lot of the the air bloody compressors, they were driven by steam, and then there was no air down the mine. They'd say, turn the air up a bit, we haven't got the air. but where a lot of it went was leaks in the pipes, sort of thing. And when they got the electric air pumps, well, they had to fix all those leaks up because you couldn't just turn the air up a little bit more because you're flat out now. But with the old steam, they say, more steam.
Now you powered one of the steam engines at Bagawan, is that correct?
Yeah. And later in my time, I used to. I worked in the boilers. We had 3 boilers.
Yeah.
And then when the engine driver retired, well, I got his job as on the mining.
Yeah.
So of course we got electric compressor and electric fans for underground and electrics for the sawmills to cut the timber.
Yeah.
So we backed to one boiler, so I used to fire one boiler and drive the winch at the same time, which we wasn't pulling as much coal out them days what we was when sometimes we'd go in early in the morning, an hour early in the morning, and pull up 44 wagons of coal that we couldn't fill up the night before. So we'd get 44 wagons up, so when the miners got there on that day, they'd be able to fill the wagons straight away.
Yeah, keep them busy.
Of course, they've got more money too.
Yeah.
And it was all what you dug, that's what you get paid for.
Right.
Yeah, what you dug, that's what you got paid for. But up in the big mines up there, there's no such thing as... There is a bonus up there, yeah, but it's not about how much you dug, it's how much that the mine can put out, sort of thing. And then it still goes with the miners. If they want to knuckle down and do a bit more, well, they get a bit more bonus, sort of thing.
Well, speaking of that, the more you mine coal in your era of mining, did anyone really push the boundaries of safety in search of that extra payload?
Yeah, well, I know that was, well, especially in the later mines like those big open cuts and underground up the north.
Yeah.
Safety was that was one of the major parts of the mining operation. You know, it had to be safe to do the job.
Yeah.
And I know that where I used to work up there, the management would have meetings with the miners and talk about the safety and whatever. If they had a bit of a problem at one level, well, there'd be a bit of a talk on that.
Right.
How it wouldn't, how it should not have happened, sort of thing.
That's Emerald.
That's at Emerald, yeah.
How much of that happened in your days?
Well, of course, the union was involved, and the union, they were the union and the company. They were like that. They were great friends, you know.
Right.
And I know it was different when I was up at bloody Emerald. The union and the miners couldn't get on. No, it was out.
Yeah.
Gone. Up here at Bagawan, if there was a problem at the mine, well, they'd go down to the bloody Ipswich, to the bloody union executive, whatever, and they'd talk about the case, whatever. Well, the miners used to go down with the management and stay at the same hotel. Stay at the same hotel and have a few beers with one another, you know. and if the miners won the case, well, fair enough, the owners had agreed to it. But if the owners won the case, the miners agreed to it.
All right, now the coal here, we started exploring just before Christmas, and we just stumbled across a couple of sites, the Churchill mine, and we just assumed because there's these big culverts or big pits in the ground that was all open-face mining, but that's not the case, is it? The coal seems quite deep in Bagawan?
Oh, yeah. A couple of 200 feet. Yeah,
and what method of mining? So from the early days, was it room and pillar? They had to leave some part of the coal seam up?
Yeah. It was all, most of mine, well, in the earlier days here, there were shafts, like straight down the bottom.
Yeah.
Well, they never worked, shafts were gone when I started work in 53. And now, after that, it was all tunnel, one in 7, 1 in 4, and then that tunnel would go down to the seam. Then the seam we could vary from 4 here to somewhere over there too, and then the levels would go off then, and that's where the horses would use to pull the wagons out. Yeah.
Now that's a big shaft or a manway or a decline down to the coal seam. You're mining into coal. How dangerous was it? We've heard coal mining, as opposed to hard rock mining, is extremely dangerous.
Yeah, well, see, coal mining in our cuttles like Bagawan and that sort of thing, they used to timber timber the roof so it wouldn't fall in.
Yep.
And when they were reducing coming out, the idea was to make the roof fall in behind so it takes the weight off where you dig at the coal.
Right.
Like up in Emerald now, the mine I used to work in, they had a 300 metre face, and the shear would go across and take 300 metres of coal out and up the tunnel to go, and then they'd move the chocks up further, and then it'll fall in behind.
Yep.
So in other words, that takes the weight off where they're cutting the coal.
Yep. All right. So the pub, 1890, and the mining town. So there's a couple of pretty wild stories from the gold rush era in the Wild West, where miners were some pretty unruly characters. Now, was that the case in Queensland, or were you a little bit more civilised?
Yeah, I think we were a bit more civilised in Queensland.
That's good news.
Yeah, I know that I used to have a few beers at the pub, no trouble.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. When I first started work, I was getting 14 quid a week. Okay. Well, when you get married on that, you never had much money spare for a bloody beer.
Yeah.
But over the years, when you get a bit more money, and you get a bit more work, well, a bit more wages.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, there was always a Friday, especially for Friday payday. We had a payday here that the bank used to come out to the mine office and we'd get our paid in the hand sort of thing. And you go to the pub, go and pay your union dues over at the back.
Yeah.
And then come over to the pub here and have a few beers.
So there's no gunslingers in Queensland. We're a bit more civilised.
A bit more civilised, yeah.
That's good news, Tiger.
And we had a good conversation with the policeman, and especially if we had a function in the hall or something like that, you say to, well, this fellow's name was Kingy, we say to Kingy, how are we going tonight? Can we, he said, mate, he said, I'll be going to bed at 10 o'clock. Well, we knew then that we could stay on.
Party time.
Tell us, you know. And, or if he'd say, I'm on tonight or something like that, well, you know that 10 o'clock or 10:30, that was when you had to go.
It's a strict cut-off, yeah.
And we had a function here for what they called the hostess was the mostess. And we had a big barbecue sort of party, whatever you call it. And anyhow, maybe we did, I was president of the thing at the time, and a police car arrived. Well, we knew the Kingy wasn't going to be there, but a police car arrived. Anyhow, they come over and I got involved with them. And they said who their name was, and he said, I think you're Tiger Pollard. I said, yep, that's me. And he said, Alan King told us that you were having a bit of a show here today, and he thought that they might just have a drive out and see how you're going.
Yeah.
And by looking at everything around here, of course, we had a permit to sell gold. We didn't have a permit to play bloody ups and downs sort of thing. And anyhow, he said, you look like you'll be right. He said, well, we want to see you again tonight. Thank you very much. And
got the all clear.
Yeah. So, yeah.
All right. I've got to show you something.
Yep.
Bit of equipment. You've seen some miners' helmets in your day.
Yep.
What do you make of that one? I'm going to be honest with you, its origins are from Big W.
Yeah, I've never seen one like that before. I've never seen one like that.
Tiger, out of 10, how would you rate the safety on that thing?
Well, yeah. It's got to be 9 out of 10, yeah.
Oh, that's solid, mate. All right.
Yeah.
It's the only thing that we could find that's structurally sound enough to mount all our batteries and our lights.
Years ago, the early miners, they never had this sort of stuff, they just had leather. Leather hats, yeah, with a bit of hard stuff in the front where they put the bloody tallow light or the bloody gas light, didn't like that.
Yeah.
But we had, I don't know what these things are. What are these? Are they lights?
Yeah. They're my LED lights.
Oh, right. No, we never had lights like that, I can tell you that. Okay, right.
Yeah, you get about 15 hours out of those. So
Okay.
we're actually in a gold mine up at Black Snake yesterday, and this came in very, very handy. So
Okay, yeah.
Oh, thank you for not laughing. All right, so equipment. Obviously, the year we just mentioned earlier and had a chat about the Queenslanders were a bit behind and did it really hard with the pick and shovel, and the story you told me about the horse drawing the coal out before was just awesome. You would have seen a bit of evolution in other mine sites though when diesel came on board and electric minings, and now it's just all automated. So Bagawan stuck it out as just manual. Did you see the other mines in the area sort of evolve?
No, we saw that some of the Howard colliery miners and Queensland colliery miners, they went up the north before Bagawan miners, because Bagawan was still going. Whereas the other mob, they went up the north. Certainly, up the north, where we could produce a few tonne of coal, they could produce hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of tonnes of coal. But all that coal was good coal and went to the railways, and they used it in the locomotive sort of thing.
I've heard the seam at Bagawan was some of the best coal in the world.
Yes, best steaming coal. When I was firing down there, some wagons that took the coal from up the north, from one of the bluffs, one of those places, there was some coal still left in the wagon. And of course they had to take it out of the wagon, the bottom of the wagon, so that we could put our coal in. And they brought it round to my boilers. And it burnt like hell, but there was no heat in it. See, there's no good having flame if there's no heat in the flame.
Did you let them know?
I let them know.
This stuff is garbage.
And of course, I know that when I was firing up at Bagawan, the fella on the pit end, he'd give me the best coal that come out of the pit. In other words, the least muck that's in it. You know, like
they gave you the good stuff for the furnace.
They give me the good stuff.
I assumed you got the B grade to keep
No, I got the best stuff. And I know the miners used to get chatted every now and then about too much dirt in the coal sort of thing. Because them days they never washed it. It just comes straight out of the mine, straight into boilers. To the locos. And knowing over weekend, if we get a shower of rain, on Monday morning we'd have to get up on top of the wagons and pick out all the muck, because the rain used to wash the coal off the muck. They have to pick up the muck and chuck it out sort of thing.
Awesome, mate. All right, so Bagawan number 7, it looks like the seam in Burren was absolutely massive. So how much did you know about the other mining operations in town? Was it all one company or was it all separate claims?
No, well, the Bagawan used to always have go sort of 3 mines, number 7, number 11 and number 12. Well, it was number 13 too, but number 11 closed down and went to 13. I worked at number 11 on the surface over there for a few years. And all number 11's coal used to go to the power station at Howard. And of course the power station closed down. Well, that's when there was no coal going to the power station. The power station at Howard, it was built of concrete. You know, like it was a massive bloody building. And why they blew it up, I never know. They could have used it for something, because it was a massive. And there was still coal there when they closed it down. See, and then because there was a lot of coal going from number 12 to the power station. Well, when the power station closed down, there was no coal. But then again, the mine at number 12 would be still working only for what they call the greenies. The water they pumped out of the mine, they call that blue cooch, and the cattle all around the mine area was feeding on this blue cooch. Not blue cooch, salt cooch.
Yeah.
And it was good food. But,
That had just filtered through the rocks and they'd pump that out.
Yeah. Well, see, them days they washed the coal.
Yeah.
And all the muck then, or the coal would go up into a hill sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then over the years it catches fire, it burns, and what they use it for roads.
Right.
But most of the muck heaps down in his area has been taken out and used to build roads.
Rightio, recycled into bitumen or...
But see, all the muck that goes out of the mine, there's still a lot of coal with it, and then there might be a fire come through the bush and there was a log where they dumped the muck over the top. Well, if that log caught fire, the whole muck heap catches fire.
Right, all goes up.
And then they call that red shale.
Once it goes up? That'd be a hot fire.
Yeah, well, I don't know whether number 7's still on fire, but it used to be on fire, And number 10 used to be on fire. So number 10 was another Bagawan.
These underground fires?
Yeah. No, this is on surface.
On the heaps?
On the heaps,
yeah.
On the heaps.
Yeah. Now, dangerous stuff. Methane gas, you've got the coal when it's being mined, even with pick and shovel, that sort of coal in the air is flammable. What are some of the most dangerous things that you've seen in your area of mining?
Well, see, the methane was one of the things. And fair enough, we had it in our mine down here. I wasn't a deputy, I didn't go into what you had to do that.
Yep.
But I did, when they talked about when number 12 had a lot of methane gas. When number 12 shut down, they decided to leave a tunnel at the tunnel mouth to let the bats fly in and out.
At 12?
At 12.
Yeah.
The bats to fly in and out. And of course, the bats could fly in and out too. But the methane gas was coming out too, through the pipe.
Yeah.
And if someone would have been in front of there with a bloody cigarette or something, the whole place would have been gone.
Oh, they had to seal it up.
So they sealed it up.
So we're primarily looking for those shafts. That's what started our explorations. In some sites, it sounds like there's almost kilometres of tunnels underground. What do you reckon's left down there? Obviously, a lot of dangers.
Well, see, in our area here, where we're only taking out 6 feet of bloody territory sort of thing.
Yep.
Where up there, they've taken out 4 or 5 metres.
Yep.
So there's a lot more gap between when ours falls in to what theirs falls in.
Yep.
That's why they're up in the north that you can see the hollows in the road or hollows in the road.
Cave-ins.
Cave-ins. Where here, there's not a great deep because it only drops 4 or 5 feet.
Yeah.
6 feet.
So it'd be pretty. So if we did find something that was still open, it'd be pretty small spaces to squeeze through.
Yeah.
And full of gas by the sounds of it. Yeah. All right, couple more questions, mate. So I don't know if you know, there's a group of locals. I'm a big fan of what they do. So the Maryborough to Hervey Bay Historic Railway, was that still all connected in your time, and was it running to number 7?
The Maryborough to...
The railway line.
Yeah, went from Colton to Hervey Bay.
That's the one. Yeah. Is that all still all functional when 7 was running?
Oh, shit, yeah.
All right. Well, now these groups of locals, they're trying to turn that in that, because some of the structures in the bush, they're just awesome. There's some huge timbered bridges. Yeah. They're actually trying to seek funding, and they're actually trying to regenerate that as a bike trail. Would you like to see that go ahead? There's a bit of a...
We used to have what they call the miners' picnic.
Yep.
That went from Howard, Maryborough, 2 trains to Pyoga.
Yep.
And it used to go to Colton.
Yep.
That's where the trains went from Colton to Pyoga.
Yep.
And then it used to come from Maryborough to Pyoga and back. The railways used to have a railway picnic.
Yep.
And that come from Canal bus end days, Bundaberg,
Yep.
right from as far as Gippy, with the mine, with the railway picnic.
Yep.
And it'd go down to Pyola, and there'd be 7 or 8 trains down there.
Yep.
They'd have the railway have their picnic at the Pyola Oval sort of thing.
Yeah. Now, speaking of the railway line in there, is there any part of you that you just wishes a little bit more of the history had been preserved? I heard number 12 was still standing relatively intact till 97, but it's been completely flattened. Is there any part of you that just wishes some of it had been preserved?
Well, I'd never been in numbers 12 after it's closed down. I worked there, but I've never been there after it's closed down.
It's just flat. There's a couple of concrete blocks that would have housed, some big machinery, but there's really nothing. I love it. I love just even finding a bit of steel cable, but for the average bushwalker, I mean, do you wish a little bit more had been preserved?
Probably a little bit more preserved before they done the job of cutting everything up, sort of thing.
Yeah, because I mean, I lived in Harvey Bay, and I thought the tourism here was all about whales, Fraser Island, and it's only until November last year that I found a road called the Churchill Mine Road. I personally think it would have been awesome if they just preserved 1 or 2 sites in respect to all of the works that we did. It's a huge part of our history.
Yeah, well, see, the coal from Churchill line used to go to Colton and to whatever, and then down here at Bagawan, well, there was Bagawan and Bagawan number 7 and Bagawan number 10. And 2 Queensland colliery mines.
Yeah.
And they used to send their coal up on the railway, over here to Torbanlea, to go for winter. But I know what you mean, there was nothing sort of left. Well, I don't know what's been left at Bagawan number 7 either. I've never been down there for quite a while.
Beautiful chimney. Now, I've heard you know who built that.
I know who built that chimney, my grandfather and the late Harry Rowson.
Mate, that thing looks as good as the day it's built. It's got this big iron ribbing on the outside of it.
And
that's a pretty impressive structure, mate.
And I used to fire the boilers that went into that.
Yeah, that's still standing. That's a big structure.
And I can still remember the day that my uncle was the manager. And Georgie Mattis, we had to clean those chimneys out every now and then. To clean the soot out of sort of thing. And Georgie got halfway in and he said, Davey, he said, I can't go any further. He said, you can't go any further, you'll have to get something else. And I had to get in and scrape the soot out, sort of thing.
Well, look, of all the sites, that we visited for 6 months, that's still standing. I'll tell you, mate, that chimney doesn't look like it's going anywhere anytime soon. That's been built really well, so. Well,
that was built before my time. I'm 85, and that was built before my time.
Yeah. Few people know its location, but it's an impressive structure. So you guys are on the hunt for some coal. You dug some huge shafts underground. Did you find anything on your way? Did you hit any other minerals, or did you find any other?
No, nothing. Only coal.
Right, so I've got a gold pan. So out of 10, what's my chance of striking gold in Harvey Bay?
Gold or coal?
Gold.
Gold. Well, I think you've got more chance of finding oil in Harvey Bay.
All right.
Because a lot of coal is mixed up with oil.
Yeah. All right, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure. All right. Nick. You've got to finish the beer. I appreciate you not making fun of my miner's helmet. I think you gave it a 9 out of 10, mate. That's impressive. All right. That was awesome, mate. All right, so just with Tiger at the Historic Miners' Arms, we're checking out some real mining artefacts after we inspected our Big W miner's helmet. And we got some artefacts up here on the roof.
Look at it.
What do we got there, Tiger?
Miner's helmet there, look. That's a bigger shovel.
So that was what was used in your era, number 7?
Yeah. We got 1 million tonne out of number 7, and it was all made by a number 7 shovel.
So one man on a pick and a shovel. How much coal is he pulling out a day? On a good day?
He'd get 20 tonne.
20 tonne in a day?
30 tonne in a day.
Yep. And the horses would pull that out?
The horses would pull that out, yep.
All right, well that just about wraps us up for today, guys.
Okay, thank you very much. Sorry, Nick.
Pleasure to meet you, Tiger. Thanks for your time, mate.
Melodies bring memories of a a song it sings of Georgia, back where I belong. Georgia, Georgia, the whole day through, just